Alright, welcome to the first, or at least the first I'm running, of the post-campaign Flashpoint missions for the HBS BattleTech. As you see in this one, we are working for the Lyran Commonwealth. I'm just mainly going to let the briefing run its thing here, explaining where I need to if possible, or if needed. Unfortunately, none of these are voiced. They're all text. Basically, if you're not following along or if it's going too fast for you, since everybody reads at different speeds, you're being contracted by House Steiner to escort a convoy from a clandestine research facility in Liao space, which, why, but whatever, which is transporting a prototype BattleMech of theirs that you need to keep safe and get it to its extraction point. And you have the option, as it explains, you can either hit during or after the enemy scout lance is in the area. If you hit during, you know what you're up against. If you hit after, you can run up into anything, basically. So, just for variation's sake, in this one I took or did it during the patrol. Just it doesn't really change anything in the mission. Just changes what you're up against. If you do the other one, you get up against mixed lance with assaults and stuff. This one I think is just heavies and mediums. And since I'm not going for salvage, I wasn't real worried about going for bigger mechs. So, as you see, I'm running my regular heavy lance in this one. It's an escort mission, so speed is of the utmost here. Yeah, as it says, House Steiner isn't even supposed to have a presence in this system. Yeah, you're at the complete opposite end of Cappellan space from where the Lyran Commonwealth borders it. There is no reason at all they should be here, but it's a game, whatever. It gets way worse with some of these, as I'll point out when you get into it, for the absolutely flying in the face of canon logic, but they're fun.
Command interface initiated.
So there you go, you launch into this. There is another way to do this, different from the way I do. I do it straightforward and go right for what you're supposed to, follow the road there. You can also, as I usually actually do this, you can swing to the left of the screen and actually hit the patrol before you pick up the convoy. It doesn't really change anything. It just makes it, if you are worried you're not going to be able to protect the convoy with the speed and firepower you've got and don't want to risk losing anything, that's always an option, because then the next wave doesn't pop up until the trigger of them reaching the extraction point. This way I'm doing, you have to fight through the opposition. The other way, you can take out the opposition first and then only have to worry about protecting them while they extract. So.
Coordinates received.
Doesn't change the opposition, just changes the order at which you face it.
I copy.
I copy.
We'll also have a bunch of downtime of sitting and waiting, because as I pointed out in one of the other missions, when the vehicles have to move, for some reason it loves to take forever for the vehicles to decide what they're doing, despite the fact that literally the vehicles are just following the road, so why does it take so long to figure out what it's doing? But whatever. So there they've spawned in. I should have moved the other three lance mates further up. I was thinking they were going to spawn in that hex, but they don't. They spawn outside of it, so you're starting off right behind the vehicles, which makes it harder to stay ahead of them, but whatever. And now we wait, and wait, and wait. As far as gameplay goes, that's the only real issue I have with these Flashpoint missions, is so many of them require escort, and what you're escorting, the AI, for absolutely no reason, takes forever. Literally, how hard is it for the computer to decide that it wants to drive forward along the predetermined path? This is also the first main mission, really, where I'm running with Medusa taking the place of Glitch, and boy, do I miss her being fully trained up. Because he's not especially effective this mission. He's got to get more training in. Now there's a Vulcan.
Receiving you. Confirmed.
I can't remember if it was after this one or after the next Flashpoint I get in and do some major tweaking of the loadouts of my mechs. I strip off the advanced equipment weaponry off some of the assault mechs I've acquired that I don't really use, and distribute it among my heavy mechs here for a little extra punch and survivability. But for this one, it's basically the same loadout I was using during the main campaign. I don't really violate the the canon loadouts of them. I don't vary them that much. I just put much improved versions of the weapons for the most part. Other than the Warhammer, I swap out the PPCs and put a pair of, I think it's ER large lasers and medium pulse lasers in each arm, because they actually generate less heat. I think weigh a little bit less than the PPCs do, even if they don't do quite as much damage. A little more useful in my opinion.
Receiving you.
But as I've said, I'm not a huge fan of PPCs.
Move order received. Affirmative.
I'm more a fan of lasers and autocannons.
Inflicted some heavy damage.
Missiles are great for knocking people over in long-range fire support, but I don't like relying on them for main battle mechs. There's a Jenner. To strip some evasive off the Jenner. For some reason it's side on to us, not front on, but whatever. The second half of this mission is where it gets really interesting, so. This one's just a typical escort and protect mission. The second half of it is the interesting part. This is also one of the missions where there really isn't a lot of lore stuff to talk about until I get to the second part of it here. But some of the ones coming up, I'm going to have a lot to say about why they don't really work with the lore of the game with the way they did them. I'm glad they put them in. They make it interesting, and they,
Waiting for orders.
definitely are a good addition to the game. But as far as being lore
On the
accurate and even making sense in some cases, they really, really don't.
Locking on. Reporting.
They
Critical.
tried to put too much wide-ranging, interesting things in it, in my opinion, that just kind of stomp all over what should be here. There's so much they could have done with this sector of space without having to get into the stupid stuff they do. Stupid as in lore, not stupid as in shouldn't be in the game, because as I say, they are fun. It's just, if you're somebody like me that's really into the lore and universe setting of BattleTech, and you look at these, and as you're playing them, you scratch your head and go, what the hell are we doing? This should not be happening. But not as quite as bad as the mission where you have to go rescue Alexander. But
Acknowledged. Think I hit something good.
another Jenner and a Javelin.
Engaging multiple targets.
Okay, that's half the lance down.
Enemy mech destroyed.
Got legged by an APC. That's unfortunate.
Yes, Commander. On it.
Ready for orders. Firing on target.
Yeah, even with the laying on the ground, he's only had a 48% hit chance on that torso. He got lucky. Really need to get him trained up. I do run a few other missions on the side that I don't record to try and get his training up, but
What's up, boss?
until I get his marksmanship especially leveled up, he's very much a third wheel in these missions.
Engaging physical attack.
This goes much quicker once they extract, because you're not waiting for the AI to decide what of the
Standing
one
by.
available things it's going to do, basically. It's not like they swing back and join in the fight, they just keep advancing on the thing. Why do they take so long?
Got it. Targeting for physical attack. Target neutralized.
At least this wave of it. Why? I probably could have cut out these pauses, but I think
Move
it's
order
a slippery
received.
slope to get in and start editing the actual run of the
Moving to
missions
position.
themselves. I like to just let them run as they ran, playing
Copy
them.
that.
I don't want to start messing with them. Sometimes the temptation to save scum is bad enough. I don't want to get in and start editing out, and then while I'm at it, oh, well, this was pretty stupid that I did. Let's cut that out. Nah, leave it in, warts and all.
You're in position, Commander. Hold your ground until the package is on its way.
There's their extract dropship. Which, annoyingly enough, isn't even getting them off planet. All it's doing is moving them from one place on this continent to another. Which is another one of those, if they were going to be, as you'll see, moving to this mech facility to test it and everything else, why didn't they just build it there?
All
But
weapons
then we would have only had a
eliminated.
one-part mission, so whatever. One down.
Enemy mech destroyed.
And we lost another one of our vehicles, but only one has to extract for some reason. Again, if they're supposedly transporting a BattleMech, which none of them are big enough to carry, why does only one of them need to get out? Is it just magic that they only shoot the 3 decoys if only one of them gets out? That makes no sense. But again, it's a
Commander.
game. Take it all as it is. Don't think too much into it. Take out the trench bucket. Hopefully. Ain't gonna, but
Aye, aye.
hopefully. What's that other one? A hunch? Yeah, looks like a hunchback.
Got it. Standing by. On my way. Reporting critical hit.
Objective
Okay,
secured.
they're off the field finally. Yay. That's also, I want to point out, I've never mentioned in any of this, in all of these missions you see the Leopards come in, land on a pinpoint spot, and take off again like a VTOL, almost like a giant V-22 Osprey kind of thing. In the canon, the tabletop game, and the novels and all that, that is not how a Leopard operates. They need an airfield or a large open space to land on like an aircraft, regular, wing flying aircraft. The drive on the bottom is their flying through space drive, not a vertical landing system. But again, it works for the game. It's just something that always has annoyed me with these games. This isn't the only game that do it. Just about every MechWarrior BattleTech game does that with the Leopards. Yeah, Mech Warrior 5, they're hovering over the battlefield, hot dropping mechs right and left and everything, which maybe is a little more believable, but they can't land and take off vertically, that's for damn sure. And in the main game, they look very different from how they're portrayed in the HBS and then the Mech Warrior 5 games here, which uses the same model.
Warning. Armor low.
They're much more tall and bulbous and cargo aircraft look, not, you know, sleek, flat brick with wings. In fact, in universe, their pilots call them the brick because that's how they handle in
Heading out.
atmosphere. Is like a brick with wings tech to it. Okay, that takes out his autocannon. He's pretty much neutered.
Standing by.
This is one of those cases where often with these, it's just quicker to take out the opposition and be done with it than it is to try and reach the extraction point, because they always put them in a stupid place.
Eat this. Scored a critical hit.
Safely break contact and extract by going straight through the opposition to a landing place that is within range of where they are now to fire at. Makes, again, no sense. If anything, it should be fall back to where you dropped or picked up the convoy from and extract from there, because then you have terrain in the way and you can break contact, but no, whatever.
All weapons committed.
The mission setup of these love to make you have to reach your extraction point by basically breaking contact and just running through the opposition.
What's up, boss? Affirmative.
Or as happens in one of my favorite missions where you are overwhelmed and quite easily can be wiped out if you don't extract,
Commander.
you have to extract your entire force by running along the bottom of a ridge line where the enemy is standing firing at you. So you have to move at walking pace to be able to return fire and try to keep them off balance,
Position confirmed.
because if you run, you're just exposing yourself to being wiped out as you're trying to extract, because even the extraction point where it is not out of range of where they're standing to fire. Sometimes the setups on these maps are just asinine and make absolutely no sense from any perspective.
Engaging physical attack.
Okay, I think other than his head laser, he's
Enemy
completely
mech.
disarmed
Critical
now.
damage detected.
Orders. Location confirmed. All weapons are go.
There we go. Alright, moving into the debriefing and then into the next portion of the mission now. You get to play with a Hatchetman.
Mission successful.
My all-time favorite medium mech, of which I have a museum scale model sitting here on my desk. Not painted yet, but it will be. No real damage taken. No real good salvage either. still check to see, but no, I think I end up just taking the Hunchback. Yeah. On these ones, I do leave some of this in because they're almost all multi-part and they go straight from one to the next. So other than cutting out some very long blank spots, I do leave most of the in-between stuff in. And this one I cut down significantly. Actually, most of these, when I cut the load screens and the wait times out, they drops them by a third to a half in overall time. My computer's not especially fast. Once it does load, it runs the game fine. It's just the load times can be very, very long on my computer. Using a very old gaming laptop that can run it, but not with any kind of speed. Come on. Thought I cut all this crap out. Gonna have to do a little better with the editing in subsequent ones. I thought I'd cut all this load time out of this one.
That mech is ready to fight, Commander.
Alright, there we go. Alright. Launching right into this one. I go with my 3 best pilots and 3 hardest hitting mechs. Even though it would have gotten more XP for Medusa, but I need the skill on these ones. And there you see it on the left. Just like when Kamea comes in, you can't do any editing or changing to that one. You have a prototype Hatchetman, which in the canon, the context of the time here, is one of the first new mech designs to come out of the Inner Sphere in centuries. Not the first, but one of the few, and the first in quite a long time to come out since the fall of the Star League, when, you know, the constant warfare started to bludgeon the technology and infrastructure back a few centuries. Basically what it is it is a light, fast-moving, close-in brawler, literally, that is made for urban fighting for the most part, not for out in the middle of nowhere like we are now. But it is the first mech in universe and in the game designed specifically around a weapon system designed for melee, which gives it its name. It has a, in this version, retractable hatchet on the right arm that is used to literally chop and bludgeon enemy mechs up close.
Picked up a blip.
And despite the fact that it is using technology and designed by a firm that exists within the Federated Suns and Davion space, it is fielded and produced by the Lyran Commonwealth, because it is an offshoot of their growing rapport, if you want to call it that, of working together and agreeing not to fight each other. And it ends up quite the symbol of what becomes an alliance and union in the future between the two states, which doesn't even last a generation because this is BattleTech, but at the time it happens is a huge in-universe deal. So it's actually designed by a mercenary group under Dr. Bonsai, and if you're familiar with old movies, yeah, they literally just copied the name and character from something else. I won't get into it. But that works for the New Avalon Institute of Science at the capital of the Federated Suns.
What's up, boss?
It's a convoluted story of how it ends up, Lyran, but it does. So,
Taking
and then when the two of them join into the Federated Commonwealth, it becomes one of the mainstays of the FedCom.
Target's taking a critical hit.
going into the future of that, which I won't get into. It's very, very handy against clan mechs because clanners don't like melee combat, so if it can get in close, they're not used to fighting something like that. After this mission, it's basically a hardwired thing. Once you run this mission, the Hatchetman and a non-canon variant of it that only exists here in the HBS game become available for purchase in the market or for salvage. You can start to run into them in missions and salvage them, even though you shouldn't. But literally, like right after you run this one, you start running into them in use by non-Lyran forces, which is, you know, if this is a prototype that you literally just saw get its first combat trial, how the hell do pirates have it? But whatever. Again, game. It's armed with an AC-10 up close and a couple of medium lasers to back up the hatchet so that as it's closing into melee range, it can still fight and defend itself. It's not just a melee monster. However, the version of it that I get and customize to my own way is basically just a melee monster, as you'll see coming up. I use it in one of the subsequent Flashpoints. I have it saved because there's a couple of them where you have weight limitations on what you can run, so I saved that for one of my mediums to use. I really like the Hatchetman. Always have. I believe back in the day in the late 80s, early 90s, when I started buying my first miniatures, I think the old Ral Partha pewter miniature of the Hatchetman was the first one I ever bought and painted.
Orders?
Appropriately enough in Lyran Guard colors, because despite the fact that my character I play as a mercenary is Free Worlds League, I am a big time fan of House Steiner and the Lyrans.
Copy that. Hostile eliminated.
There's the Commando down. Commando is a very good scout mech. Unfortunately, in this game, it gets put up against things it shouldn't be and gets used in ways it is not meant to be used, but it is a very, very good light mech.
Yes, Commander. On my way. Let's see how you like this.
I was tempted to DFA with him, I remember at this, but there's more opposition just landed, and I'm sure more coming, so why risk losing a leg this early in the fight?
Systems holding.
Thankfully, none of these mechs are in very good repair. You can tell these are meant to be just a thrown-together force to try to take you out as quick as possible. This is not a planned heavy assault. This is just they grabbed whatever was available and tried to bring it in to take you out. They're good mechs. You're up against good opposition. It's just not in the best of condition.
Solid connection on that
Took out
one.
his autocannon, so he's not neutralized, but he is very much defanged now.
Waiting for orders.
Ooh, a crab.
Splitting fire.
And yes, if I never pointed out before, I don't think, if you know the game and you notice my archer, I'm running LRM-15s instead of LRM-20s, which reduces its signature firepower.
Ordnance received.
But I wanted the extra armor
Affirmative.
because it does tend to take a lot of hits. So
Now that hit something good.
in universe, the main game, I should say, the two non-arm mounted medium lasers it has are actually supposed to be rear firing. In all the video games, because there's no rear weapons, it turns them into front firing center ones. But I remove those because just being somebody that comes from the tabletop, I'm used to them basically not being there anyway. So I remove those and downgrade the LRMs from 20s to 15s to get more ammo and more armor.
Good to go.
Which is Decker and the Archer almost never overheats because of the way I have it
Move order
set up.
received.
He has to basically alpha strike every single turn for like 5 turns in a row to even come close to overheating. So,
Mech destroyed.
which is a good thing.
Ready for orders.
Okay, so
Move
you
order
have to, watch as he level the alpha strike the last one, and alpha strike this one, and his heat is still going to be negligible. Yeah, not even close to overheating.
Hey there. Ah,
Yeah, I think finish him off with the hatchet. Yep, legged.
critical hit, Commander.
Sometimes the hatchet does great damage, sometimes it can't seem to hit anything vital. It's, again, dice rolls. Whatever the random number generator decides is what happens. You can't call your shots with melee, unfortunately. At least not in this game. I believe you can in the tabletop. I haven't played it in a very long time with a hatchet man to remember. I don't even have a miniature of it to play right now.
Engaging target.
Bye-bye, crab.
Enemy mech destroyed.
Get the melted butter. Oh, you could eat crab legs.
Waiting for orders. Moving out.
Finish him off so there's no eyes on the building. And we can move up and take out that last force.
One less target.
I've had ones of these where the hatchet man gets headshotted in the very first exchange.
Yes, Commander.
It's not like it has to survive and do well. You're just there to protect this facility, and it's being used to fill the slot for theoretically somebody of yours being damaged or inevitable, so that's really all it's there for. It's not an objective like Kamea that has to be kept alive to win this mission. It can be blown to pieces and you still can win, so don't feel like you need to protect it. Go ahead and use it, have some fun, try it out. Something that doesn't really notice in this, that's a in-universe thing with the Hatchet Man too, is the it and its bigger brother that comes along later, the Axeman, both have a complete head ejection system, which is, it sounds like it's a wait what kind of thing, but that entire head assembly of it that has like an odd airplane shape at the back of it is designed to eject completely from the mech, and then a big parasol parachute opens up, and it can be guided and landed in a safe place, more or less. I mean, within reason, within a certain distance, it can be landed and controlled, which not only protects the pilot to eject, protects him from the environment if it's in a hostile environment, and saves the mech's battle computer for analysis and reinstallation into a new design or a new chassis. So in universe, it's actually not all that uncommon in a larger war, like say the Fourth Succession War and the War of 3039, to have the enemy salvage hatchetmen. The problem is they quite often salvage them completely missing the head and the computer, so that they can't really be used. So they end up kind of being,
Orders.
I want to say, retrofitted or reverse engineered. I guess either one works kind of technically, into a mech that is also called a hatchetman for the most part, but is used by, say, House Kurita or House Liao. That
Receiving you.
it has the hatchet, it has the body, but sometimes it'll have a different design head, which is an odd little thing that pops up, but it's something in the universe that I think is kind of cool, that it was created with this little quirk and ability that it has that then has consequences future, for it being salvaged and things like that. So let's work with that, and let's make it so that anybody that had to salvage this thing and use it has to put either try to reclaim the head or put a new head on it, and it's just a neat thing. You also have, when it's used by House Kurita, the Draconis Combine, the samurai warriors of the Draconis Combine consider the hatchet to be a brutal barbarian weapon, so they rework it to where instead of the hatchet, it has a mech-sized katana, which does the same damage, and I believe is considered a little more accurate for use because it's lighter, but is also a neat thing where you see hatchetmen with a katana instead of an axe. So, neat little things in universe with it. It's a fun mech, really, really interesting to use, really cool and fun in the lore. So, there you go. We've won that, took no losses, no major damage even.
Mission successful.
And as Yang says, my, could you have some fun with that chassis. In this game, there's a non-canon version called the 3X instead of the 3F, which is the version you just used, that has a totally different capability of weapons loadout, and that's the one I get because I wanted to do something different with it. So in a future Flashpoint, you'll get to see me use that, and I'll talk about it when I do. I'm still trying to come up with a good name for it. So I think a custom hatchetman like that, a custom prototype mech one-off like that should have its own unique name, but I haven't come up with a good one yet. I have one in mind, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. Here we go. We have the post-mission briefing, about a minute and a half here, and then this one will be all done. We'll call this one a day. You'll also get a quick thing going forward here with the flashpoints. You have a lot more contact with the mercenary liaisons from the houses you have here. And you notice every one of them, the way they wrote it is really cool. You have a kind of different relationship with each one of them, not even really dependent on your standing with that house at the time. They all kind of have their own personalities and their own way of doing things. And there's some of them you get along quite well with. They're almost like friends of yours. And then there's others that when they show up, you can almost see the crew going, oh, great, these idiots again. But there's what you get for it for salvage. That's why I went through this, is every one of these you get a bonus reward thing. I wanted to show you what was available here. Couple of mechs, couple of weapons. So, couple of weapons. So, Stieglitz Bradford he is very much the prim, proper noble, but he's also a very amicable easy to get along with, although being a noble from House Steiner, I'm sure he's, also always got 15 different angles of how he's going to make this work out for him. But that's just the, nature of the beast with BattleTech, and especially with House Steiner and some of the other ones. Um, my favorite one, even though it is not my favorite house, the one you have for the Draconis Combine is basically he is a bored, miserable drunk who makes absolutely no bones about the fact that he hates his job and sees it as punishment. But because of that, you actually get along very well with him because he makes no bones about the fact that that's all he's there for is he's giving you your briefing. Here's what you need to do. This is how much money you get for it. Now I'm going to the bar, which is actually quite refreshing. I like it. The long series of them I have coming up, the multi-point campaign that I've started, and I've already done the video but not the voiceover for the first part of it that will be coming out in a couple of days. He is in that, and they actually point out it's kind of refreshing to have somebody who just acknowledges his incompetence. But yeah, so going forward, those get interesting. You get interesting little, I guess you'd say, character bits from some of the interactions you have. You also get into some very interesting lore and wider universe things that I will explain when they come up because they're not very well clarified within the game. So that's part of the reason I'm doing these with full voiceovers and the full length of them too, is some of them will have things that I very much have to explain as I go for them to make sense if you're not familiar with BattleTech. But anyway, that was the end of the first Flashpoint. We now have access to the Hatchetman, and that makes me very happy. That very much enhances my happy. So have a good one, and I am recording and releasing this on Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it might be for you. We'll be back in another day or two, probably day after Christmas, with the next one. So have a good one. Please give me a like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Later.